And now, from San Francisco, California, at Candlestick Point, it's the Stick Niner Empire Podcast Show with your hosts, Iron Mike Arango, Lucas McLaughlin, and Lucas Ortiz.
2023, welcome to your Niner Stick Empire podcast. And today we have our two glorious hosts here, Lucas and Luke. Welcome to the show, guys. As always, I am Iron Mike Arango as well. Niners roll off a sweet and gorgeous victory this weekend by the score of 30-7. Not much could have gone wrong that week, in all honesty. Tough to find any flaws in the system. I will find one or two, unfortunately, because we could always get better. But guys, what a great weekend. I know everyone's super stoked. Again, hard to find any issues. Steelers didn't have much to do. I mean, they talked a big game. A couple of the guys did by Patrick Peterson, I believe, but they really didn't have much, did they? Especially since IU caught a touchdown in front of them. But guys, Brock Purdy, 19 of 29, 220 yards, just super efficient. At this point in his career, honestly, the one thing I really see about this guy, man, is he's like the epitome of a game manager. And I don't mean that as a knock. Like, he does everything right, and he does everything just enough with this talented team around him that I think we could get a ring with a guy like this. What do you think, Ortiz?
Well, I have no doubt about Brock. After seeing him in the preseason, I didn't see any ill effect of the UCL tear. I thought velocity was good. His accuracy was back. He was making some interceptions in practice. I would kind of check in weekly and see like how he was doing in practice. And like, he threw a couple interceptions this practice, had an okay, practice here and there. But overall, he looks like Brock Purdy from last season, which was one of the best, 8-game stretches that any quarterback has ever started his NFL quarterback career with. I saw, nothing that would lead me to believe like this guy couldn't take us to the Super Bowl. And
you know who he reminds me of? Do you remember do you remember Steelers' old quarterback, Big Ben, when he first started his career?
Roethlisberger?
Very similar.
I think his leadership style is maybe similar to Ben, but they're very different quarterbacks. I mean, Ben is like 6'6".
No. I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of worried going into this game. I didn't think we really showed well in the preseason. We weren't playing a lot of our stars. McCaffrey didn't, touch the ball or play in a game in preseason games. So I thought we might be a little rusty heading into this one. And I thought the Steelers going into it looked great. I mean, Pickett, ask anybody who's a Steelers fan, and they were loaded with confidence with him as a quarterback. He had like 6 drives in the preseason, 6 touchdowns. So they were coming in with a lot of confidence, talking a lot of trash. And
they weren't too well, did it?
You alluded to Patrick Peterson and his, we know what they're going to do. They have tells. We watch film. We got something for them. And that guy he was obliterated by Ayuk. Ayuk showed he's ready to become an elite receiver this year. And I'm so happy for that guy because he went from being in the doghouse, barely seeing the field, to figuring out, knowing how to practice, knowing how to be a professional. Yeah. And, he's up there with McCaffrey as far as like weapons and Debo and Kittle.
Put in the time. Yeah, put in the time.
It's a 4-headed monster, guys. We have a 4-headed monster of offensive weapons now.
I remember thinking back during that draft when we took Ayuk, I really wanted CeeDee Lamb because I really felt like CeeDee Lamb was, the more talented receiver. But at this moment, I see why we didn't draft CeeDee Lamb also. I think it was a big attitude thing.
Yeah.
But, man, plus, I think Brandon Ayuk is a 1,500-yard receiver if you give him a chance.
And I don't see CeeDee Lamb blocking for his running back to score on a 60-yard touchdown. Like, he's not lighting anybody up and taking as much pride into blocking as the guys on our team, and specifically Brandon Ayuk. I mean, that was one of the best blocks I've ever seen a wide receiver ever throw. So that guy's he's got my love and he's got my loyalty for as long as he's a 49er, for sure.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Luke, how are you feeling about the game?
You guys said, Bosa got signed. Were you guys sweating Bosa? Like last minute signs a giant deal.
Every day I would check my phone before I went to bed. I would check my phone in the morning when I woke up. I would check it at lunch. I'm just like, when is this going to sign? Like, when are we going to see that?
You know how many texts I got that said,
like, what am I going to see?
When's he going to sign? So I think Ayuk will have his day in the sun after this year, right? Won't his contract be up? I hope he gets paid too, and has a really good season. But yeah, it was great, you guys. I think Bosa coming back like that, showing little rust and just getting right back in on the action. And he had a lot of snaps too. I mean, he seemed like I don't even remember when he was really out for a long period of time. And he led the way. They looked great, except for that one 95-yard drive. Almost looks strange when you look at the whole game as a whole. And that one drive where Pittsburgh drives 95 yards after we kind of botched it on the 30-yard line or whatever, 37-yard line. There's a few incomplete passes. We punted, then 95 yards is a pretty long ways to go in like a minute and a half. So other than that,
penalties
help other than that, man, they look sharp, right? Like I almost see like Shanahan, the way that he holds his cards in the preseason, not showing anybody anything, and then now they're ready to go.
Well, we show it all, baby. Well, we've got one of the best coaches in football, and that's for sure. A funny moment in the game, I enjoyed watching Bosa just having a great time out there. There was one play where he got knocked off his feet. He was just laughing about it on the sideline.
He was a little rusty though. I don't think we've seen prime Bosa in game one, and we wouldn't expect it, right? Like he's working out in Florida. He's doing sprints. He's lifting weights. It's not football. It's not hitting somebody in the face and pushing on each other and getting those calluses of man-to-man combat. Like he's not doing that out in Florida. He's just done that for a day or two. So give him a couple more weeks before we see real Bosa. But we see the effects of the attention that he gets, and it allows guys like Hargrave to get a sack, Drake Jackson to get 3 sacks.
Yeah, like Pittsburgh said they were getting ready for Bosa to be there anyway, and they were not ready.
What did we finish with? 5 sacks on the game?
I think so.
Give or take, and I think that's because they took a few away. I thought Kerry Hyder had 2, but on the stat sheet he only had 1. Not too sure why, but I thought he actually got there twice. I think one of them got taken back, and another one from Armstead too. It could have easily been a 7-8 sack.
Well, Armstead was causing pressure. He was causing havoc. And getting Pickett to be a little flustered, getting him off his, out of the pocket and having to roll to his right. And then he would, be gobbled up by Drake Jackson or, Cleveland Farrell was constantly in the backfield. I liked him as an addition to our team. I think he's going to be one of those guys that makes us forget about Amenahue, the loss of Amenahue, the loss of Ebicom. I think he's a little bit better than those guys. Yeah. And
he had a motor.
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets
counts for a lot.
Yeah, he's a great run defender, and I think he's an underrated pass rusher. I think he's going to get somewhere close to 10 sacks this year, just being opposite of Bosa.
Let's not forget on the other side of the ball, Jake Moody, who had a shaky preseason, came in and hit all of his field goals, all 3, and then all his extra points, and looked pretty solid, really. I thought he had a good game.
Well, we didn't even know if we were going to have a kicker. We didn't even know if we're going to have a healthy kicker going into that game. Moody hurt his quad right before the last preseason game.
Maybe that helped.
And our backup Zane Gonzalez popped his calf muscle in warmups.
Oh, Jesus.
So Mitch Wishnowski was the point after touchdown kicker, and he had one of the worst PAT attempts I've ever seen in the history of football.
Thought they're going to re-sign McLaughlin.
But we must have been confident that Moody was going to be ready to go because they never wound up actually signing somebody other than they brought in a kicker, I think, and put him on the practice squad just in case we needed to call him up. Moody, they weren't difficult kicks, but he made them.
I feel like they were trying to ice him before the game. The coach says, Mike says he wasn't trying to ice him, but I think he was just calling.
I think he was, moment, because it happened in the preseason. It happened in the preseason, and he missed it. So I think they just kind of wanted to test the rook and see if the same result would have happened. But he made his kicks. He made his PAT. One did get blocked, but it was because it was an offside. So,
I think we're all happy
who's kicking
this weekend.
No matter who was kicking, it was going to get blocked. And, the penalty made it a little closer. It was like a 40-yard kick.
ice water in his veins. Everything looks solid. I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to wind up being the leading scorer on the team, albeit, because he is a kicker.
And as you guys said, Brock Purdy.
Yeah, Brock Young.
Yeah, he looked pretty solid considering he just had elbow surgery like how many months ago? I mean, that's a pretty solid recovery and looks sharp.
6 months.
Yeah.
No,
he had elbow surgery. He had one of the best recoveries from that surgery that I can remember. I mean, usually like you hear elbow surgery, Tommy John, or some kind of reconstructive surgery, and you think, all right, he's gone for a year, maybe a year and a half. But I guess this surgery was a little new and a little more experimental and didn't need a complete reconstruction. So it was a quicker recovery time. And then this guy healed that a little faster than what they expected.
Nice.
He did. And his ball placement was fantastic, especially I know you guys both know exactly what I'm talking about. That pass to Ayuk toward the end zone, toward the corner. I mean, that was I do personally feel that he lost a little bit of velocity. I think it'll come back, but man, that pass couldn't have been any better.
But
that
the
was
run,
a perfect throw.
The run opens up the pass, and we can't say enough about McCaffrey, man. What a game. 22 rushes for 152 yards and a touchdown.
That's the machine. Yeah, that's
I wish I got him on my fantasy team, that's for sure.
Did you get him?
So we'll talk about it a little bit later, but the offensive line wasn't given. I mean, the pass protection wasn't great, and Brock was still able to elude TJ Watt a couple times. There was a blitzing safety. I think it was Mika Fitzpatrick came unblocked, and he put him on roller skates. He spun out of it and hit Debo, I think.
Brock Young, for sure. That was
so he's not just doing a 3 and 5 step drop and then hitting somebody in stride. Like sometimes the guys aren't open and he's having to do a little magic. He's kind of like a sneaky, athletic little white guy who, he can scramble a little bit. He can juke guys, and he's just smooth out there.
He can elude the pass rush. He has very good sense of timing on when to move. And he does that little Russell Wilson move when he turns around. I am worried if people are going to catch on because he did that twice. I think it was the Dallas Cowboy game. He always runs around to the same area. It's always to the left. So I'm a little worried about that. But man, the guy's presence, like football, he just feels the rush so much better than anybody I think we've had in years. Would you guys agree?
I agree
wholeheartedly. And there's one thing that
for sure
young quarterbacks don't really do. It's a skill that you kind of developed as you have more experience. I don't even think Brady was someone that his first or second year was looking off defenders and then knowing where he's going to throw the ball and then looking off the safety to open it up more. He did that on the Brandon Ayuk touchdown pass on the first drive. There was only 2 wide receivers. Debo was on the left. He had 3 guys on him. Ayuk was on the right. He had a cornerback and a safety who could have, should have gone towards Brandon Ayuk's way. But Brock looked him off to the left. He went to the left, went over to Debo's side, and that's what freed up Ayuk. Of course, he had to put that nice little move, that nice little juke on Patrick Peterson and leave him in his dust. But not a lot of quarterbacks do that, and not in their
his age.
Ninth professional game as a starter. He does that a lot. It's something that is, like I said earlier, it's you develop it over time, and he's already figured it out.
Hey, I got a quick question for you too, before we get down in the trenches here. The Niners actually had a couple different quarterbacks. Do you hear that working out for them last week?
So I heard about that, and
are they trying to get rid of Darnold?
No, so teams will do this periodically. They'll schedule guys to come in and practice for them, and it could be for practice squad reasons. It could be they plan on trading somebody. It could be like maybe they were looking at trading the third-string quarterback Brian Allen. Yeah.
And what's he worth? $2?
Put in Ian. I think it was Ian Book. Yeah. Or it could be that they were looking at the wide receivers and they need a quarterback to throw to the wide receiver. And being an off day, you can't bring it. You can't tell Brian Allen. It's against NFLPA rules to have someone come in and practice on the day after and the first 2 days after a game. They're supposed to get off. Those are those are mandatory off days unless you're doing
what if you're not
injury
playing?
rehab. So yeah, it could be just like they were actually looking at him, or he was just a quarterback they needed to throw to 3 receivers that they were also taking a look at.
Got it.
He did have a child recently, so maybe he just wants to be at home. Who knows?
Yeah,
You know,
it's
he just had a
possible.
baby,
But
like-
last I heard, that quarterback signed with the Patriots on their practice squad. So that's, old news. It's on to LA, on to the Rams. It's Ram week, guys. I don't know
It
about
is
you guys.
Ram
but
weekend. We'll
growing
get to
up,
the
I used
Rams.
to
We'll
get-
get to the Rams at the end of the show. Definitely.
I used to get more pumped for Ram week than even the Cowboys back in the 80s. So we'll get into that a little later.
I didn't want to see Flipper Anderson go off. I know you remember those games. He used to go nuts. He would only go nuts against the Niners. That's the strange part about it. So, guys, I think it's down for down in the trenches now, Mr. Lucas Ortiz. And for those of you that don't know, Lucas is a legendary high school offensive linesman.
Oh, thank you. Too kind.
You would never figure by his dashing good looks, and his chiseled physique, because the man's in great shape. But this guy used to weigh 350 pounds back in the days.
350 pounds. Wow. Wow. Thank you for the ego boost, but it was about 250. I think I'm rolling in at like 185, 190 these days.
What you weighing in right now?
I was a little bit bigger.
What you weighing in right now?
I was a hog. About 185, 190. Yeah. Just depends on the time of day.
Compared to those days.
Yeah. So once upon a time, I was a
can't
big
even
hog.
be a kicker at 180 nowadays. No, yes, you can.
I was in the trenches.
You can even be a quarterback.
I was back in the trenches in high school and college, and I love watching offensive line play. I like to go back and watch the game, slow it up, watch it 2 or 3 times, see what worked, see which guys actually made their blocks, and which guys were not as successful. And the one guy that I know everybody is talking about today that we need better play out of Cole McKivitz, but he actually played a decent game. He did give up, was it 3 or 2 sacks to TJ Watt?
They say 2, but there was 3 from that corner.
Yeah, and some pressures too that like Brock was able to get rid of the ball before.
5 pressures, 2 sacks directly with him, correlated with him.
Right.
One of them partially correlated with him. He played good the first half because he had help.
Yeah. So things he
not a good game.
Things he was doing well. He's actually a pretty good, almost similar to Mike McGlinchey in that he struggles in pass protection, especially outside rushes. Guys that are good with their hands, guys that have a lot of speed and power. And TJ Watt's, next to Bosa, he's the next best pass rusher in the league. You got to put him up with Micah Parsons and Bosa as far as like the scariest guys you want to see lined up against you. So I expected him to struggle a little bit. He did struggle. When it came to the run game, he was a lot better. There were times where he was, you'd see him on the ground, he missed his block. He was, just you never want to see offensive linemen on the ground on their knees, and it just happened a little too often. But I didn't think he played as bad as everybody thinks.
I think he played miserable. I think he
wasn't miserable.
The what you're telling me
penalty. He had 1 penalty. One of the sacks was a coverage sack, and 2 of them he was beat pretty badly. But doesn't mean like the overall game was terrible. Like if you look at a running back, if a running back has 3 misreads on a carry, but has 120 yards on the ground on 15 carries, does it mean he had a horrible game just because he had 3 bad plays? No.
You know how I see him. I call it like how I see it. I see him as a poor man's version of the last guy he's replacing.
And a lot cheaper. You know what the last guy that we had?
That guy was making $10 million a year. I know.
Exactly. He's making a lot more this year. Cole McKivitz, he will get better. I didn't think the offensive line was great in the first game last season. We went on to the NFC Championship game. So they will grow with each other. They will become better. He will practice against Nick Bosa, which he hasn't had to do in this training camp. And Nick Bosa is going to make him a better offensive lineman. I guarantee it.
Or he'll
the rest of the guys. If you really want to know who didn't play all that great, it's kind of under the radar, was Spencer Burford.
No, don't take that away from me. That's where I'm going next.
He had a low PFF grade. He had I think
so I was going next.
And he had a penalty on a play where we were just going to let the clock run out. Thank goodness for Trent Williams, because he hasn't slowed down. He's still the best offensive lineman in the game. Maybe the best offensive lineman in the last 30 years. I don't
10
know.
years for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know about there's a debate.
There's a debate. Yeah, he's up there. He's in the discussion. He manhandled pretty much everybody. Nobody sniffed the quarterback when they were lined up against him. And Aaron Banks had one of the best down the field blocks that I've seen a guard. I mean, he's 320 pounds and he's 30 yards downfield on McCaffrey's big touchdown run. So, big ups to Aaron Banks. Love the athleticism from a big guy. Kind of reminds me a little bit of me, but yeah, the offensive line was good, but they weren't great. And we're going to be better as the season goes on. I think we're going to look a lot better against the Rams. That's for damn sure. So
I don't know. I predicted that the Niners would win last week by 10, but I told a bunch of my people I would bet that they would win by 20, and I was right. I think that this is a similar game, but by not as much. I think the Niners roll in next week and stomp the hell out of the Rams 37-13.
What say you, Luke?
Well, I'm looking at it's going to be a closer game than that. I think the Rams, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like it's going to be a little bit closer, and it's going to be low scoring. It's going to be 21-14 Niners.
No Cooper Kupp.
So I didn't watch that game. I saw the score. I saw the stats, and I was kind of surprised that Seattle didn't throw the ball as much as I thought they were going to be. They have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Trying to remember they have a third wide receiver that's pretty good. And Geno Smith had the best year that he ever had throwing the ball. I mean, he was throwing.
Yeah, he did
20 to 40 times a game and getting consistently 300 yards a game. And they tried to run the ball and it just didn't work. So,
well, he didn't look good passing last week, though. What was it, like 13, 26, something like that with 14 picks?
Run opens up fast, though.
So I think they played right into the Rams' hands. And the Rams, I mean, from what everybody says, I didn't watch the game. Stafford's back. His arm's strong again. He's making elite throws. He's looking scary. Yes, they won't have Cooper Kupp, who's injured with a hamstring, gone for the first 4 games. But now you're hearing they have some young players like Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell. And, these guys had big games last week against the Seahawks. And they have a lot of young offensive linemen. Those are the kind of guys we want to line up against with Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead and Drake Jackson. So
what type of prediction?
How they do against
score are you giving?
Our number one defense? I think it's going to be a close game actually this week, and it's going to be low scoring. It's going to be like 20-17. It's going to be a Jake Moody kick at the end. I don't think it's going to be as
37
smooth.
points. I say we get.
I don't think it's going to be as smooth as a victory as it was against the Steelers. 27.
It won't be that smooth, but I can see us putting up 37. We're better on all aspects of the game.
Yeah.
Well, can they do better than us? They can't run the ball better than us.
Considering that McCaffrey's the clear number one on this team, do you guys think that Eli Mitchell is going to get frustrated? Because he is a pretty talented running back.
I would have been frustrated that we were winning 30-7 in the third or fourth quarter, and he had like 1 or 2 carries. It's like,
I would
share the rock. Like we don't need to.
5 carries for 10 yards, and this guy is so.
We don't need to force feed McCaffrey when the game's not on the line. If it's a much closer game, exactly. Yeah. You wanna share the load, so to speak, and let guys like Mason and Mitchell get a little more run. I would have loved to see Mason get some touches in the game. Yeah, I think he's very talented. I think he's a bruiser. Yeah. And
it's been well documented. I'm pretty frustrated with Shanahan when he doesn't take guys out of the game that you don't want to get hurt.
Right.
I don't know why he does that.
Ty Davis Price had a great camp.
Yeah,
he had a great preseason, and he was inactive for this game. So maybe Shanahan will do things a little differently going forward. Activate 4 running backs, play some of those running backs, not just in the fourth quarter, but throughout the game. And then when McCaffrey does get in there, he's fresher, he's more effective, he's less likely to get injured. And I think that's just overall, that's going forward, that's going to be the best thing for the team.
Absolutely.
He grinds them down, man. I don't know what it is about. He grinds every player down to the bitter point. It's like, dude, you're up by over 35 points, 30 points.
Yeah.
Play your backups.
Before we get out of here,
He's traumatized.
I don't think we talked too much about the defense, but how about Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw? Like,
So good.
Those two, if they're not the best linebackers, the best linebacker tandem in the league, I don't know like who the hell is. I mean, those guys were on every single tackle. Even when the play is on the other side of the field, one of those guys is in on the fun and in on the party, making highlight tackles. Fred Warner should have had an interception that game. He dropped a gimme right in the belly. And Greenlaw, there's not much of a drop off from Fred Warner to Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah, so good.
It's a shot to the vein, as one man once said here on the show.
Yeah, and one of the reasons they were able to make a lot of tackles is because of the play of Hargrave and Farrell and Bosa. Those guys clog up two or sometimes even three defenders.
They're opening it up.
Just allows the linebackers to roam and hit the seam and make some of those tackles.
It's game one, fellas. It really does come down to injuries, and we got to stay healthy. Knock on wood. We got to, because we've had years where it's like, who's left? We got to. Most of the practice squad is here, and so let's hope that they stay healthy. And it's great to see you guys again. And the Stick Niner Empire podcast continues.
Are we doing players of the week, or is that not a?
Well, you said 30 minutes. We could do that. Yeah, you know what? We can take out all that stuff Arango said
earlier. Make that show run, man. Make that show run.
This shit.
Edit this later.
All right, I'm taking Fred Warner. He's my guy.
Yeah, we should.
Okay,
Rango.
Guys, players of the week.
Good pick.
Ortiz, you go first.
Fred Warner.
He's got Fred Warner.
And you know why? I just told you. Rango, go.
I have so many. I really do. You know what? I would actually like to give it to the coach. I would like to give it to the coach just because.
The coach is the player of the week.
Man, how can
Shanahan?
Listen. Have you ever seen a game
Jim Thompson
where Purdy was just finding every single human being open on every single play, especially Ayuk? So okay, I'll give it to Ayuk. Ayuk's route running skills are extremely underrated. I think he's right behind, as a route runner, maybe a little bit behind McLaurin. Terry McLaurin, definitely behind, Diggs, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp. I think those guys are the best. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of people don't. I think Brandon Ayuk is a top 7 route runner right now. I do.
Agreed. And he's a top 1 blocker as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
As in, he is the best blocking wide receiver in the game.
DK also. DK's a truck when he blocks.
Is he? He's a blindside blocker.
He'll knock you out, though.
He's a cheap shot. He's a cheap shot blocker.
Yeah, he did that recently. You saw the last game, right?
Yep. Yeah, I saw the highlight.
Dirty play. He's like the Dominic Sue of wide receivers.
So I would go with the obvious McCaffrey, but I'm going to say Brock Purdy because the quarterback position is obviously so important, and he had such a great game. To see him back after 6 months of rehab on the surgery on the elbow, I was so happy that he's back because he's such the important piece of that team. And like I said, it comes down to injuries. So hopefully people stay healthy, and especially Brock Purdy, we're going to need him.
Yeah. I was shocked, honestly, at how great he played. I thought that really was, from the bottom of my heart, guys, one of the best games he ever played.
Yeah.
Like you could see his head moving. He was going through all his progressions, and he was constantly throwing to the right man open.
And McCaffrey's the horse, you need him, and it would be shitty if he got hurt, but we do have Mitchell, we don't have another quarterback that's going to be like Brock Purdy's playing right now. So
yeah, but you'll get Mitchell for like 2 games and then he'll get hurt. So you got to be careful with Mitchell.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mitchell's a savage. I mean, his career average is what, like 6 points, 6.2 career. Like his average is ridiculous. The guy's a savage, and he runs hard as hell. The thing is, he's not as big as how he runs, but the guy has amazing heart. He's just fantastic. I love him.
Nice. Well, great to see you guys. We'll try and do this a little earlier next week. Thanks for everyone to tune in to the Stick Niner Empire podcast.
We had some scheduling issues, but we're going to try to get this in on Monday next week. This is
we're back again, baby.
Wednesday evening. It's a little late, but we'll do better next week, guys. Hey,
guys, football
season
to see you again.
Here. Let's do it again.
Go Niners.
Football season's here, baby. Go Niners.
Go Niners.